What's up, gamers? ZFarls here. Team of the Week 7. An offensive lineman emerges out of nowhere. And then, of course, receiver and corner. Two positions with a lot of options. So where do Cooper and Hayward stack up? Julio, AB, Odell Beckham. Where do these guys fit into that landscape? I'll give you the answer. Plus, we'll dig through for some budget players. Let's start on defense. In my first budget option, Eddie Jackson had a great week, but he doesn't make the budget list. Dante Fowler flies in 7,000 coins, a guy we really liked as a budget option as a rookie, but this year acceleration's not that important, and his finesse moves at 82. He's not bad for 7,000K, but his block shed's a little bit low, and I would pass on Fowler at the moment. Miles Jack is a very pricey linebacker, so he is not fit the budget mold. 6'1", 85 speed, so great speed on Jack, but is he a guy you drop into a deep zone in the middle of the defense with 81 zone, 85 speed at that height? I don't think so. He's got finesse move, which you don't really want at the middle linebacker position. So I'd pass on Jack there. Other defensive options, Derek Morgan you could use if you really wanted a strong edge-setting linebacker. And then Everson Griffin is pretty pricey, but I think Joey Bosa at the end of the day, even if it's not this Bosa, if it's even a different lower Bosa, these are the Bosa that you go for rather than spending on a guy like Everson Griffin who doesn't have the block shot. We saw Everson Griffin at the Madden Classic have some great games, but he's not really the same guy quite as much in Ultimate Team. So Morgan if you needed an edge setter, but there are also some other really good edge setters. Casey Hayward, where does he stack up? Well, he gets 92 zone. So we've seen Micah Hyde get 92 zone. He's a safety. He's not as good as Paul Krause, but he's a cheaper option. We saw Richard Sherman in Most Feared get 92 zone. He's much slower, so if you look at all the players that have 92 zone so far, you see Sherman gets a power-up version, and he's up to 87 speed, so that's strong. Now his Most Feared, though, is only 86 speed. Could be a potential liability. Talib and Newman, especially this Newman 85, are your best options for lower price guys. Look, Casey Hayward, his price has to come down a little bit. I think he's going to end up in the 350 range, and when he does, he's a great option for that. He's pretty strong. We also got a new Mel Blount legend that we never went over, but if you get the read and react, you can get him up to 92 zone. And this is where you really get that Terrence Newman level of great power, pretty good hit power, pretty good block shed. Now, players aren't really fumbling much in the flat right now, so Landon Collins down there, Rodney Harrison down there, that's what people like to do. But I don't think you pony up the extra unless you think they're going to maybe tweak fumbles or guys will start to fumble more. I just don't see that happening, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But like I said, this Casey Hayward, they did a great job making him the master. I was a little bit concerned at 88 speed, 92 zone, what he would get. But the fact that he got 88 and 92 makes him, no questions asked, somebody you check out, somebody you look into. He's always actually been kind of a beast in Madden. And, Jonathan Joseph was streaking down the field the other day, and I'm like, man, we don't need a Jonathan Joseph because he's not going to fit this mold. But Casey Hayward fits the mold of the meta, and now you just got to dig through this list, figure out who you can afford, who you think could get upgraded, and who has the hit power. Do you want to go for that and pay potentially to get some hits? Do you have the Twitch tokens for Rodney Harrison? Do you have some of these power-up guys going? Where can you get your value? Where get your coins out of it? Hayward, he's coming in at 550. Got to drop down a bit. Okay, so let's go to the offensive side of the ball. And the offensive lineman I'm talking about is Joe Thomas. So Thomas gets a injury in his game. He played over 10,000 snaps straight, so they drop a limited time item. 91 strength with 93 pass block. One of the best left tackles in the game. Now, there's not many right tackles in the game, but there are some very good left tackles. Is this a 400K card? More than a 650? We'll have to see where he settles in at, but that pass block rating's huge to go against some of those really, really high Bosa level moves. So that is critical that you get yourself potentially a Joe Thomas, because I don't see anybody with 95 pass block coming out, too soon. Well, let's go through and just make sure that's a correct statement, because you want to make sure you have pass block that can counter a move like a Bosa with 95. And so we'll go in and we'll see who actually has the highest pass block. This is something I should have done before I started the video, but we live lab in these videos. That's why you guys watch these. If you just want to know who the player was, you already would know. But if you wanted to know stuff like this, so let's go to 93. So Conklin has 94 pass block. So you definitely want to get Conklin, and you definitely want to get Whitworth. And I think those are going to be better values, in my opinion, than Joe Thomas. That's the move. And that's why I would say I would hold off on Joe Thomas. So hopefully you got this far in the video. I'd hold off on Joe Thomas. I would target... I'm going to go get these two guys today and try them out. They can't be worse than golds that I already have. Whitworth and Conklin. That strength is a little concerning, but, I mean, it could be far, far worse. This Whitworth is a monster for 26K. That's the move. Sorry, Joe Thomas. You're the man, but we just discovered some stuff. Okay. Jordan Mills. Not a ton on offense this week. I don't like Yeldon. I thought for an elusive back, his agility's too low. Ted Ginn gets an item, and Kenny Stills is a speedster, but Ginn's a little bit faster. Missing a little bit more. Obviously, you have John Ross still that you could always pick up. Pouncey is a very good pass blocker in the middle, but doesn't quite have the strength. Centers are tough to get very strong versions of, but he's always pretty decent. Gabe Jackson's a player I've loved for years, so good strength, good pass block on the Jackson, and then he's always pretty balanced with his run block. So Jackson's a good target item over time if you can get him and settle. He's going for 128. I was going to say about 100. Maybe he drops down to 70K, and then Gabe Jackson, you feel pretty good about where he is. You get a fullback in this spot, so that's not somebody most players would use. I wouldn't necessarily use a fullback. Now, when we look at Amari Cooper, you really have to kind of consider Antonio Brown recently came out. He's better than Odell Beckham, not the hero, not the highest Odell Beckham, the gauntlet Odell Beckham, I believe it is. But he's better than probably not the core elite, but I think it's power up Odell Beckham. And AB and then Julio. So Julio, they all basically, Amari Cooper's the fastest. He's stronger than Odell and Antonio, but he's not as strong as Julio, but that's fine. He's more agile and he's more elusive, whereas Julio's more of a trucking, so they're a different style. He's more similar athletically to Antonio Brown, but Antonio Brown has better catch in traffic and better route running. Now, Julio has this very similar route running. They all have very similar spec, with Cooper actually having the best, and he has better catch in traffic than Julio. So Antonio Brown is the best route runner of the bunch, unless you're going to go and get the Edelman. Even the Blitnikoff is 88, so like you got to go Edelman basically to get that level of route running, or pay for the Antonio Brown. You need very specific routes if you're going to then use him to capitalize on the 93. You're going to run the crispiest routes of the bunch. Spec-wise, Julio is taller. He's more physical, so you figure he would spec a little bit better. Amari Cooper is incredibly balanced. I think I give the nod to AB for the route running role, and I give the nod to Julio for the spec role. Even Odell Beckham has higher spec, but he's also not that tall either, so it all kind of balances itself out. At this point, it really just comes down to price. 500K is just far too much for a receiver that does a little bit of everything. It's good. The Larry Fitz that came out is a little bit slow, so he's a more physical Julio style type, but he's much slower, so you'd have to find a role for him. And then you've got the T.Y. Hilton, who's an option. So let's just pop T.Y. Hilton, and who's more of a speed style guy. He's up to power up 4, but even just his 91 gives you 1 extra speed. But look at the difference in strength. And then they have the same agility. His catch in traffic is worse than AB's, but his route run is much better. So I would actually go T.Y. Hilton, but they're the same price. So you do get the extra route running. He's better. I would go for T.Y. to save the coins over AB, but I would go T.Y. for the speed and the route running over Amari Cooper, because they're very similar, and I like the extra route running. So I think T.Y. Hilton's a better value than Cooper. Took me a really long time to say that. I think we found a little nice stuff on the Joe Thomas. I think that's a good team of the week. And that's all I got for you. Until next time, guys, this is Farls reminding you to lock up, stay hungry, tell a friend, subscribe to the channel, do more, do less. Peace.